Hello, everybody. Just getting in here a minute early this morning. Going to see, oh, hey girl. Hey, Crystal, I've got the comments on. So if you are watching streaming from Facebook, I will be able to read your comments. So feel free to participate that way. Okay, it's 10 o'clock. I'm not going to waste anyone's time today. We're going to jump right in. If you want to, and you're watching this, you want to jump on the Zoom, ask me any questions, feel free to participate in the comments on Facebook, or the link for this Zoom is in the page. All right, let's get this party on the road. So first and foremost, I wanted to let you all know and kind of preface this week on what we're getting into, what we're going to be doing, and why I even created the Creating Lasting Change Challenge. And it all started out, all right, we got someone joining us. Jacob, you're going to end up being on video. So if you feel like turning yourself off, feel free. If not, you're going to be streaming into the Facebook group, which is totally cool with me. So the whole reason that I created this challenge was because I started a little thing a few weeks ago called the Feel Good Challenge. And it was a 21-day experience where we just started a little Facebook or Instagram group, and we set some goals that we all wanted to accomplish and wanted to be there for each other, have a little bit of accountability for each other. And at the end of this experience, I asked the group, what were some of the greatest things that you guys benefited from? And what were some of the things that were kind of lacking in this challenge? And one of the things that the participants said was that the accountability aspect was really, really great. And it was really nice to have this group presence. And we're definitely going to get there on day 5. Yana, you are not alone is my whole shtick, and you'll find out about that as we go. But when it came to one of the things that one of the participants brought up, which actually kind of sparked my mind a little bit, was that during this challenge, we were giving ourselves like a lot of grace for not accomplishing or not keeping to or not doing everything that we said we were going to show up for, that we were going to do. And for me personally, as much as I love that, you know what, let me see really quick how I make this like this. Okay, now it should be like just speaker. Anyway, so basically what came up for me was that as much as I love holding space for one another, I love making sure that we show up in our humanity and we show up as our authentic human selves. And sometimes that means we don't get it right and we don't accomplish all of our goals. And you'll be able to see that as we go into the failing forward part of this experience. But what really came up for me was this idea of like, how do we make sure and ensure that we create change that lasts, right? How do we make sure that we're not just highlighting this part of, oh, I was human, I had a human moment, no big deal, I didn't really get to experience, show up for myself in all of the ways. And what's really true about this, as my mind started kind of circulating, I started thinking like, in my own life, I've created some really amazing changes. So what were the things that ensured that they lasted? What were the things that made it really, really stick with me? And the biggest thing for me personally, myself, was taking full on responsibility for the life that I'm living, for the life that I'm creating, and for the life that I am going to have ahead of me, in front of me, and for the life that I have today. And in this aspect of true responsibility, of making a decision and telling myself I'm going to show up for myself no matter what, everything started to pivot for me. Everything started to shift for me. And I think this is the very, very first step. And it's kind of a prerequisite to the 5 days that we're going to get into. But can you, if you're participating in this challenge, truly and authentically make a commitment to yourself? So, whatever your goal may be, whatever change you want to create, how important is that for you? Are you going to be responsible? Are you going to show up for yourself? Because this is really, at the end of the day, you and you. And the only person that's got to lose out on this is yourself. So how are we going to ensure that we ourselves are going to be so responsible, so dedicated, and so taking care of ourselves, our own needs, in order to make this challenge work for us, in order to make the teachings that I teach you? You know, I can come in here and talk all day long, but are you ready to really take this information and make it yours? And when I say this, what comes up for so many people is kind of the roadblocks that are in our way from taking personal responsibility. And we're going to get through all of those as the time goes by. But I really would like for everyone that really wants to create lasting change in their life to really see it as their own responsibility. You know, like if you're working for somebody else, if you have a job and your boss says, show up at 10 a.m., show up at 9 a.m., if your boss says, take out the trash, if your boss says, do this, do that, you might be grunty about it. You might not enjoy it. You might not want to do it. But for some reason, we always show up for other people. We show up for our employers. We do show up to work Monday through Friday. If the boss says, take out the trash, we do take out the trash. What about for ourselves? Why don't we do that? What stops us? And this is the whole point of today's topic, which is we don't have respect for ourselves. And that's where personal responsibility comes from. When we're really, truly in love with ourselves, when we truly respect ourselves, when we value ourselves, when we find ourselves worthy, then we end up showing up for ourselves. Now, obviously, there is that human aspect. There is life. There are going to be things that come up, and that's what we're going to dive into throughout the week. I'll take this as a really nice time to kind of introduce the further week's topics. So today we're talking about self-sufficiency, enoughness, worthiness, a concept I like to call radical self-love. And inside the guides tab in the Yana project, you'll see there's quite a few videos on radical self-love and things you can start looking into implementing today. We're going to end this class off today with a really nice guided meditation that I'll lead y'all into that really helps solidify kind of this radical self-love aspect that I found helped me so much from an inner child healing place. So if we don't have that respect for ourselves, if we don't find ourselves worthy to be responsible for, this is the class that we're going to really kind of understand those patterns, because that from that place is when you will start to authentically show up for yourself, just like you do for your boss. And then day 2, we're going to be talking about setting quality goals. What I mean by quality goals is goals, A, that are measurable. So even if it's something intangible, like I want to feel better, I want to wake up with a bigger zest for life, I want to be happier, I want to, you know, things that seem like they're quote unquote not so tangible. What we're going to do in that class is really, I'm going to teach you guys tomorrow how to create quality goals and measure those goals so you know and you can track your progress. If it's something like, I want to lose 20 pounds, that's pretty easy. So we'll get into the tangible goals as well. And then we're really going to find out, like, what's your why? What's your reason? Because if you do not have a good reason for the goals that you're setting, you'll throw those goals out the window very, very quickly and very easily. So we're going to really focus on this whole idea of what is my reason that I even want these goals? And you'll see how this will build up on top of each other, because at the beginning, if your goals are, oh, I want this so that I can feel better about myself, so that I can find my worthiness, so that I can find my sufficiency, you're again going to be much more likely to throw those goals out the window, versus if you find sufficiency within yourself first and foremost, And then from that place, because it resonates with you, because it includes your why, you're going to want to achieve your goals so much more. On day 3, it's probably one of the biggest things that worked for me. We're going to talk about honoring our emotions. And emotions are 99.9% of the reason why people don't follow through on stuff. It gets tough. We don't like to feel uncomfortable. We give up when the challenging emotions come up for us. How do we continue showing up for our goals when we're not feeling it, when we're not inspired? How do we continue showing up for ourselves when we feel a little slumpy, or we feel, oh, that's my favorite go-to word, or we feel a little off? How do we continue showing up for ourselves when, God forbid, there's a tragedy in the family or something happens that really isn't isn't a comfortable emotion to experience? Can we still continue to show up for ourselves? So on day 3, we're going to honor all of our emotions. And the fun thing about this too is so many of us also do not know how to feel and celebrate the emotion of success, the emotion of accomplishment, the emotion of having achieved. So we're going to work on both of those, how to really work on your goals through hard times, and how to actually hold on to your goals emotionally, hold space for them emotionally, rather than saying, oh yeah, I did that thing I wanted to, now what's next? How are we going to anchor that in? It's really, really important in this process. On day 4, I'm going to teach you all about failing forward, because failure is inevitable. There's no place in life where you're not going to fail. Anything that you do, especially things that you do that are new, are going to involve a level of failure. And how do we fail forward? How do we learn from it? How do we measure our failures, right? So important. And on day 5, we're going to talk about my favorite topic, how to not do hard shit alone. As you guys will get to know me, every once in a while, I drop some cuss words, and it's really to rattle things up a little bit. It's not, Tony Robbins is where I got my life coaching certification from. And we actually had a whole little part of the program where Tony Robbins would drop cuss words, or watch him kind of coaching other people, and he would use strong vernacular because it wakes you up and like brings you to your senses. So every once in a while, if you don't care for the occasional F-bomb, I might not be the girl for you. So I'm just going to put that out there. And then we're going to really talk about how to not do hard things alone. And I don't care if you hire a coach. I'm going to talk about the coaching industry a lot because it changed my life, and talk about myself and what I offer as my services. I'm just giving y'all a heads up on that. But also, I don't care if it's a coach or not. Go work with a therapist, have an accountability partner, have a friend that's really a friend that's in your corner, that's doing the personal development stuff too. Right? Have, for me, from my point of view, kind of from my own Kabbalistic studies and my where this even started for me, is the idea of having a mentor, or in Jewish concepts, it's called a mashpia, is someone that is ahead of you in the game and has this objective point of view, that's not in the pool with you, and who can give you this guidance, someone that you can check in with. That is so important. And we're going to get to that on day 5. So that's what we're looking forward to in this group and this challenge. Today's whole topic is changing from sufficiency. And before we really get into the power of sufficiency, I'm going to be pretty raw, pretty honest, pretty vulnerable with you, and tell you all that a couple stories just about my background, about my life, and about why I honestly and earnestly believe that changing from sufficiency is the most important thing you can do for yourself before you create any kind of change in your life. So let's back up to about 2017. All of my life, from about 13, 14, 15 years old, I have been a very spiritual person. I have been a seeker. I have been wanting to know truths. I have been wanting to know, what is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of life? And those questions were not something that was really entertained, talked about in my family. I grew up in a family, I was born in Uzbekistan, came to the United States when I was 7 years old. And I grew up in a family that was full of computer programmers and civil engineers, and having this free-spirited little fairy of a daughter made absolutely no sense to them. And what is God? What is our purpose? What is our mission? All of those questions were not entertained in my family at all. And basically, what ended up happening for me is by the time I was 15, I started smoking a lot of pot, skipping class, kind of just trying to figure out these answers for myself because I didn't feel like I could get them in my house. And I found certain solace in the marijuana usage. And I found like, oh, this is a place where my head can expand, where I can find bigger answers, but within that, I still felt really lonely. I felt like I didn't belong. I felt like these questions that I was asking were not okay to ask, like they weren't big. And so marijuana at the same time ended up being quite a huge escape for me too. And for 15 years of my life, I smoked pot basically every single day, except for kind of like 4 years when I went on my whole Orthodox Jewish journey, which is a whole different side note, but I wanted to seek answers everywhere. I moved to Jerusalem. I wanted to study Kabbalah, and it was really, really beautiful and meaningful to me. And also I was doing that from a place of insufficiency. Like, I'm not good enough. The answers aren't within me. So let me go just extract them from everyone and everything that I can. And as time went on, the marijuana addiction wasn't enough. I went to concerts and festivals, and I love spending time in nature and camping and so on and so forth. And I had a great group of friends that I could travel with. But at the end of the day, I never felt like I belonged. I never felt like I was just understood or felt or seen, right, Emily? So relatable. Looking outside of myself for answers. Yeah. So, and y'all feel free. I am reading the comments as we go. So if you have anything, if you want to stop me, if you're like, hey, what's going on? Can you talk about this more? Whatever it may be, just let me know and we'll make it happen. So long story short, I found myself moving to Jerusalem. Then I moved to New York. Then I came back to Atlanta for a little bit. And my best friend from college lived in Maui. And I visited her a couple of times. I absolutely fell in love with Maui. And when I was 26, 27 years old, I moved out to Maui and I lived there for 7 years. And here I am finding myself in absolute paradise. I ended up scaling in Maui. The other place where I really didn't belong is in my choice of careers. There's no way I was going into corporate. It wasn't for me. It didn't work. I tried it out in New York. And I just kind of always resorted back to the restaurant industry because it gave me this freedom and this ability to travel and take time off and work at nights, play during the day, so on and so forth. And I found in Maui, that was like a real career. It wasn't just oh, you're a server, even though I want to say even in the States, being a server can be a very real career. But I found myself scaling to the top of the industry game, restaurant industry game. I was working 20 hours a week, making $80,000 a year, only at nights, had full insurance benefits, 401k match, was able to play all day in the ocean, surf, hike, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I was miserable. I was so lost. I would wake up every single morning. My morning routine consisted of smoking pot as quickly as possible to try to just get out of my body, get out of myself, get out of my pain. And soon enough, that wasn't enough. And day drinking on Maui was such an easy thing. That was kind of, oh, let's bring a couple beers to the beach, so on and so forth. I became I hate the word alcoholic because I feel like it's a stigma and a label, but I became a very big consumer of alcohol, and oftentimes very, very early on in the mornings. And it was just this place where I needed to escape myself. Now, to make a longer story a little bit shorter, for so many places in my life, I try to look for healers. I try to go to therapy. I had this yearning and desire inside. I knew that things could be different. And at different stages, yes, the healers were helpful. Yes, the therapy was helpful, but nobody was able to ever help me understand what was going on inside of me to the place where I could take responsibility for it, where I could choose, where I could decide to do something differently with my life. And basically, I ended up just would try things and forget about it, and that didn't work. And found myself in a place where I was desperate. I was so depressed. I was so sad. I was using a lot. And I literally, this is right at 2017, 2018, just had like a moment of complete and utter despair. And I remember drunk off my ass, probably 1 in the afternoon, sitting around just praying to God, like praying with all of my souls, help me. Like, there's got to be more to life than this. I cannot continue going on like this. There's got to be a way to live life with joy, to live life happy, to live like this is not what life is supposed to be like. And all of a sudden, I had this little like, I basically opened my fridge. If you guys ever knew a fridge of an alcoholic, there's nothing in it except for beers. I couldn't really like do another beer that day, and I was starving. And I had this inkling of to go to this restaurant, and basically it was really, really close to my house, so I wouldn't have to drive too drunk too far. And it's like a salad bar style place. So you walk in, there's a line, and like they make your salad right in front of you. And as I'm in the line trying to get my salad, like I'm crying and I'm trying to hold back tears. And there was these two gentlemen right behind me, and they saw me, and they were like, "Hey, come with us. Come sit with us. Like, you shouldn't be alone right now." And something inside of me, inside my heart, was like, sit down with them, listen to them. And I decided to, and it took my salad or wrap or whatever I had gotten at that point in time, and I sat with them. And we started chatting a little bit, and I just kind of let it out. And I was like, listen, life is not supposed to be like this. Like, I have no reason to be sad. I have a wonderful job. I live in freaking paradise. There's more to this. I know that there's more to this. And I said to them, have y'all ever seen the movie The Secret? And I don't know if anybody else is here is familiar with The Secret, but I do recommend it. It's a fun, interesting little movie. It was a big hype a few years back. It's about law of attraction and the power of manifestation. And I was like, I just know that the information in that movie is real, but I do not know how to tap into it. I'm not sure, but I know that there's more to life than this. And one of the guys looks at me and he goes, oh, do you know this, the secret behind the secret? And I was like, no, what's the secret behind the secret? He was like, you got to check out Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks. Now, I don't know if anybody here knows about Abraham and Esther Hicks, but if you just YouTube Esther Abraham Hicks, basically Esther Hicks is a woman who channels a divine energy called Abraham, and she goes around, travels all around the US, used to travel around with her husband, Jerry. And they have these huge seminars, and people will ask for guidance, and she goes into this kind of meditative channeling state, and this energy that goes by the name of Abraham speaks to people through her. And for some of my non-woo people, you're probably like, what the hell is this girl talking about? But I'm telling you, I came home that day and I was like, what do I have to lose? And so I YouTubed Esther Hicks, and the first video that came up was this gentleman that was like in such despair. He didn't even want to show his face. He had a hat on, he was facing down, and he was so upset. And she guided him towards this revelation that hit me in my soul, like she was speaking straight to me. And basically from even fast forward, what I remember from that day is, yes, the world is screwed up. There's so much pain in the world. We don't understand it. You're not wrong for feeling this pain. You're not wrong for seeing it. You're not wrong for feeling abandoned, for feeling the weight of the world that is literally sometimes on your shoulders because there's war and famine and so on and so forth. There's nothing wrong with you for feeling that way. but it is your absolute responsibility to take care of your own feelings, your own emotions, and to recalibrate yourself. Because when you allow the world to squeeze you like that because of the way that it is, you're not helping anything. And it just was like a shock to my system. And that was really a moment for me that I was like, okay, personal responsibility, taking care of myself. Like, what does all of this mean? How do I even do this? And so I kind of started like binging Abraham Hicks stuff. And that really started me on this journey towards getting more and more personal development videos coming up and the algorithm changing on my YouTube, and finding different talks, different teachers, starting to buy small little courses on what does it mean to take personal responsibility for myself, and what does it mean to start feeling a little bit better. And from that time, so I would say this is about 2018 until this past summer, so 2021. So that's 3 years, y'all. And COVID was a whole different experience for me. It was like a great, awesome challenge, because my whole thing is I don't belong. And I had felt like I'd gotten all these tools. By 2019, I ended up hiring a life coach. I ended up working with a coach. I ended up deciding I wanted to be a coach. This is really amazing. And this is how I could help people. And then 2020 happened and like the whole world closed down. And I didn't realize how much of an impact that would make on me. And I'm a social creature. I love people. I love being in the world. And all of my I don't belong stories showed up again, but like even more intensified. I don't belong in the coaching industry. Who the hell am I to lead? With all of the internal turmoil that's going on for me inside of 2020, and just being alone and being isolated. And nonetheless, I really made it my absolute number one job. And like I still had jobs. I still worked in the restaurant industry, even while I was starting my coaching business. But I made it my absolute number one job to do whatever it took to rewire and change my way of thinking about myself. And as silly as it may seem, I made it a mission of mine, whether it was affirmations, whether it was putting something on my whiteboard to say, hey, I am enough, whether it was just continuing to write myself stories and love letters, whether it was taking myself on deep meditative experiences, whether it was doing just inner child healing and meditations and really honing in to myself and honoring myself. I made it my number one mission to fall in love with myself, which meant telling myself that I do belong, which meant completely and totally being there for myself, which meant streaming podcasts and like as much free stuff as I absolutely could, which meant hiring a coach for me, which meant just rewiring all of those thoughts, questioning every single thought that I had about my identity and who I am and what my mission and goal and role is in the world. And this work for me yielded to, I can't say enough in words, like the divine gift that I received this summer. So for about 3 years of my life, it was really this place where it felt like I was just going to the gym and learning a new exercise and going to the gym and learning a new exercise and not knowing exactly what or how and how it worked, but and finding myself having all this negative self-talk, having all of these questions and conundrums and questioning the world, and then recognizing it and being like, okay, would I let somebody else talk to me like that? Oh, no? Oh, okay, cool. How do I want to talk to myself right now instead? Right? What do I want to think about myself? What do I want to tell myself about me? And this really was a huge exercise for me. And this summer, I did this whole 6-week road trip with my best friend all across the US. And we drove from Atlanta. You guys will learn I have a little pup. He likes to enjoy the classes and the birds and the things outside. Ignore the barking if you can. Hey. So long story short, I go on this road trip with my really good friend. We're 5 weeks into the road trip. I have absolutely fallen in love with America. Just we're hiking, camping, just spending all this time outdoors. And we are in Utah at this place that I didn't even know existed called Capitol Reef National Park. It's a little bit off the beaten path. And we decide to do this connect a hike, and like it goes way up in elevation. It is a 90 to 100 degree scorching hot day. I've been on the road for 5 weeks. I'm starting to be pretty depleted. My road trip funds are starting to run out. And as we're doing this hike, like, I just want to give up. I'm like, oh God, like, can we just turn around? It is so hot. The elevation is so much. And all of this training that I had been doing, like, you're enough. You can do this. Get on it. Let's go. You're worthy. You want that hike. Like, you want that. You want to get there. You want to get to the top. And I just I just started repeating these mantras, these thoughts, these ideas to myself. And it was like an energy that was from outside of me came to assist me in the process. And like, it was in this place of complete surrender. Like I was depleted. I was done. I didn't feel like I had enough energy. Again, all the things was like, my mind was going on like, how are we going to get home? You're almost out of money. Like all this stuff. I had money. I had plenty of money, but you know, our brain just likes to like offer us like stupid stuff all the time to beat up on ourselves. And in that hike, I just zoned in and I was like, no, I know this exercise. I know how to do it. I am worthy. I'm going to achieve. And like, it was so silly because like, it's a hike. I could have turned around, but like, and it was in that moment that literally like something happened to where it was no longer a process of thoughts that was in my head, but it became who I was in my body. I succeed. I don't give up. I am worthy of my own success. I accomplish and do that what I put my mind to. And according to the Kabbalah, it's really, really cool. So the way that our mind works is there's 3 intellectual faculties. The first one is called Chokhmah, which is kind of like the way that it works is like you have this spark of an idea. So, you know, sometimes you're walking around and you're like, just something drops in and you're like, oh my God, that's so cool. I want to do that. But it's just a spark. It's just an idea. You don't really, you kind of see it all like, oh, if that would have happened, it would be like this. It would be so great. That was kind of like in 2018 when I was like, I know life is meant for more. I know that this is doable. I know that there's a way, but I don't know the how. But like, I see myself in my life being able to enjoy it, being able to be joyous and achieve good things and not need marijuana, not need drugs and alcohol all the time to sustain myself. And then the next part of the way we kind of download and integrate information is called Bina, according to the Kabbalah. And it's like, that's the part where you really break it down. And it's like, oh, these are all the intricacies. These are the details. If these are the nuances, if I was to do that, then it would look like this. If I did that, I would look like this. And we kind of just like break all of the information down in our head. That was the next 3 years for me. It was like, oh, if this thought came in, what would that be? Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to focus on this, and so on and so forth. And then the last part of this whole experience is when the information becomes who you are. And this is inevitable. This process has to occur if you stick with it. And for me, like on that hike day, I really felt it. So this is the part that the information becomes who you are is called Das. And it is that energy center that really connects your mind to your heart, that connects your mind to your emotions, your mind to your body. And it really becomes the essence of who you are. Like, if a great way of explaining it for all of us so we can relate is when you were a little kid and you had to learn 2 + 2 = 4. And at first your teacher had to bring in an apple and a this, or you had to count on your fingers, 1 + 1 = 2. Okay, 2 + 2 = 4. And it was a whole process, right? Like you had all the tools and the intricacies until one day you were like, 2 + 2 = 4, duh. Like, you just feel it, you just know it. And now as adults, we walk around, we're like, 2 + 2 = 4, duh. Like, we don't even have to think about it. So that's what happened with me, but with the idea of radical self-love, with the idea of sufficiency, with the idea of my own innate worthiness this summer. And I want to tell you all that life has never, I'm still living in this, and like, there is no waiting for the other shoe to drop. There is no place where I'm like, oh, I'm not worthy. There are no more questions. Yes, I still, this older pattern of thinking comes up, but it's never like a shame, blame, beat myself up, be rude to myself. It's like, oh, you could have done that better. Why didn't you? Let's look at it. Let's examine it. Let's do it better next time. But it's never this like ruthless conversation that I used to have with myself. From that day, I've never felt alone in my life. From that day, the intricacy of my relationship with my family has just like we are so close now. From that day, my experience of getting vulnerable, getting out into the world, meeting people, expanding myself has been incredible. From that day, my business has skyrocketed. And the coolest thing that happened from that day was, and I'll be honest with everyone, on that road trip, me and my best friend were definitely smoking and drinking pot, or drinking pot, drinking alcohol, smoking pot, doing the whole thing. And I came home and I was like, it's time to quit. Like, easy. Like, I know I can do this. I'm worthy of it. And I shit y'all not, I put a date. First, it was the alcohol. A week later, it was the marijuana. I decided I'm quitting, and I have not looked back since. And yes, there was still kind of that detox element of it, like where my body had to go through the transition of letting go of just the physical aspects of the substance. But like, for 15 years of my life, I thought I would always be an addict. I thought that sobriety was this like ethereal thing, like somewhere out there for other people, and I would always need these things. And what led me to this place of, and I'll just be super honest, I just went to Hawaii with a really great friend of mine a few weeks ago, and had the opportunity to smoke pot again. And I was like, oh, I haven't done this in a really, really long time. Like, sure, why not? And I smoked weed and I was like, whoa, this sucks. Like, I am not myself. I am not happy. I'm not feeling it. I can see how my paranoia kicks in. Like, whoa, like that's what I used to do to myself. Holy moly. Right? Like, there is no like addiction anymore. And I truly believe that what happened was, rather than focusing on the things that I needed to change, I focused on falling in love with myself. I focused on the conversation that I was having with myself day in and day out. I focused on how I spoke to myself. I focused on respecting myself, on loving myself, on honoring myself, on being true to myself. And when you do that, you fill this void and this gap, which is 99% of the reason why we have behaviors in our lives that we choose to make okay, that we really aren't okay with, because we find that those behaviors will sustain or fill that gap for us somehow, right? So part of the thing that I wanted to describe today is, where does insufficiency even come from? Like, where do we pick that story up that we're not good enough, that we're not worthy, that we're not deserving of love, especially love from ourselves to ourselves? How does that begin? And what I really think is, it's twofold. I truly believe we adopt a lot of that from our families. And no way do I want this to be something that becomes a blame game for our parents, right? I don't talk about this too often. Um, my mom asks me not to share the stories too much, but long story short, my parents got divorced when I was really young, and my dad was a heroin addict when I was younger. Thank God for my mom was like valedictorian of her class. Ironically, they met, made me. It was totally meant to be. I'm super grateful. And then he was never around in my life. And part of my own story of abandonment, I know, has to do with that. Now, I'm not going to sit here and blame my dad. Who the hell knows what he went through in his life? What happened to him? Why did he choose that to fill his own voids, his own holes? Why did he choose his substance versus his daughter? Like, what kind of excruciating pain does someone have to go through in order to do that? It's not my place to judge. It's not my place to blame. And I spent so many years blaming and judging and wishing it was different. But that doesn't help me, and it doesn't help anybody else. And if we do this and we place blame on our families, it's only going to drive ourselves into feeling more insufficient. If only they were different. If only things were a little bit different in my upbringing, in my life. Guess what? They weren't. What do you want to do with that now? One of my favorite quotes is, "You're not responsible," and I wish I knew the author, "You're not responsible for the way you were raised in your childhood, but you are 100% responsible for what you do with it as an adult." Right? Sometimes our parents don't know any better. Sometimes our parents and our family and our upbringing, whether it's difficult circumstances like divorce or separation, or God forbid, a parent dies when they're younger or when you're younger, um, sometimes our parents just don't know how to parent us. Sometimes it's like that, it's my way or the highway. You listen to me, and we don't get heard, we don't get seen, and our inner child protects us by getting us to play small so that we can belong, we can fit into the family. But in that, we're abandoning parts of ourselves. And so don't blame parents, but we have to understand where our patterns are coming from. We have to understand how these childhood patterns are showing up in our lives. And then we have to get so serious and so responsible about overcoming them, about working through them, about reparenting ourselves, about giving ourselves the love, the nurture, the care that we deserve that we might have not gotten. That's number one. Number two is, insufficiency comes so much from society. In society, we are told that you're successful when you have the white picket house, or the house with the white picket fence, and the this and the that, and the 2.5 kids, and the 2 dogs, and a job that pays you over 100K a year, and a 401K with X amount, and this type of car in the garage, and so on and so forth, right? What do we see on the TVs all the time in terms of body image and what women and men are supposed to look like, and what's healthy and what's fit and what's good enough and what's not? We are programmed from a young age to believe that there is some kind of certain standard that says, oh, when you reach that standard, then you are worthy. Bullshit, y'all. It's absolute bullshit. You are worthy. You are inherently worthy from the day that you came into this earth, and even before that. Now, for me, believing in a higher power, not any kind of one particular religious higher power, but believing that everything in this life is divinely orchestrated, and that there's a purpose for every single soul that comes into this world, and that every single one of us has an extremely unique mission that nobody else can do, allows me to believe that about myself. And so what if my mission isn't in alignment with what society says is the right thing? I'm sorry, but society is flipped backwards right now. The things that we value, the things that we entertain, the fact that we're paying our sports stars more than we're paying our teachers, the fact that being a stay-at-home mother is no longer good enough, dedicating her life to raising children, and women have to go out into the workspace. And if you want to, that's fine. But let's get back to what we know to be true inside of ourselves, inside of our heart, inside of our souls, right? And we know that from the second a child is born, just had 2 friends in the past couple weeks give birth, and I got to hold some newborns recently. And there's something so magical about a brand new baby. And it's like, we can all agree upon it. That baby hasn't achieved shit. Baby hasn't done anything. The baby doesn't have the white picket fence. It doesn't have the house. It doesn't have any cars. It hasn't accomplished anything. Can't even talk. And it's needy as hell. Give me the boob or change my diaper. It's all it wants. Wah, wah, wah. And yet, nonetheless, we're all like, oh my God, it's so cute. Like there's this magical aura, there's this magical presence about this little being. And that is how we come into the world. We come into the world innately worthy. We are already enough. We are always enough. And the quicker we decide to believe that about ourselves, no matter what is happening in our circumstances, no matter what is going on for us, even though we're waking up, to what society wants us to know, to what our parents want us to feel, the quicker we understand that, no, I am that little child, always. That part of me has never left. That part of me has never gone away. The quicker we make that our reality, the quicker we'll step into any change, any shift that we want to make into our lives from a place of I am worthy. And because I am worthy, I'm going to go on my mission. I'm going to accomplish what I said I'm going to accomplish. I'm going to be responsible for my own results. But if we're doing things in order to reach societal standards, in order to please our parents, in order to be cooler than our neighbors, it's a fleeting glimpse of joy every single time. And you'll always be chasing something. And that's that void, that gap, that hole that we try to fill with things and with accomplishments for so many of us, for so many of my type A people out here. And have my clients who are just consistently in action, 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 action. No, I got to go do, I got to go do. And we don't slow down enough to get to know ourselves, to fall in love with ourselves, to be present with ourselves, to honor ourselves. The quicker we do that, the more that change literally becomes the easiest thing. It becomes inevitable. And I promise you that this, if I could give one gift to anybody in this world, one gift to my clients, forget all of their other goals. If I can give them that one place of belonging to themselves, right? This is what the Yana Project is all about. Finding our own worth, finding our own value, choosing to be ourselves and loving who we are in that process. It is the greatest gift. Unfortunately, there's no magic button, and I can't just download what I believe, what I know to be true. I can't download the work that I did for 3 years into you. I can't click a button and have you feel what I feel today. But what I can suggest is make this your mission. This is your responsibility. If you get nothing else out of this class and you get a determination and a desire and a need and a want to speak to yourself more gracefully, to choose to be enough, to choose to belong to yourself, And again, for everyone, I trust you. You are all resilient. You all know what's going on. You don't need to do it the way that I did it. Abraham Hicks might not be the person or the thing for you. But put some positive podcasts into your ears and listen to things that set your soul on fire. Right? Read some books that are for you, that are personal development books. Turn off Netflix, turn off the TV, turn off the news for your own benefit, and fill your mind with information that will show you and help you believe how worthy you are, and make it your mission. Be responsible for your own joy, for your own happiness. Be responsible for belonging to yourself. If I could, it's not easy. All the other stuff is going to come up 100%. But again, if I could give this gift to everyone in the world, I mean, like, if everyone just felt this way, let's just play this out. If everyone was like happy with themselves, self-sufficient, reliable on themselves, and like to take care of themselves, like, we would 100% have world peace right away. Right? What kind of parent are you going to be to your children if you don't need your children to validate you by being a certain image, by being a certain type of child? Could you love more when you love more? Right? How would you relate to your friends when you love yourself so much and you don't need somebody to validate you? So what if that friend doesn't respond for 12 hours to a text? Are you going to take it personally? Are you going to make it mean everything about you? No. Your connections are going to be so much stronger, so much deeper when you can do this work. How are you going to show up for your partners? If they're having a shitty day, are you going to make it mean everything is wrong with you? No. I'm telling y'all, if we all just took care of ourselves, if we all were just sufficient, loving, caring, kind to ourselves, if we all had a positive conversation with ourselves, if we all abandoned the programming that we received, that we're not good enough, that we're not capable, this world would turn into heaven on earth in a heartbeat. It's a big ask, but you're here and you've signed up. And I believe 1000% that you can do this. And of course, I'm here. The group is here. We're all here. I have plenty of resources. Again, there's a radical self-love tab under the guides. And I also created a little create lasting change, the 3 essential steps. And I have some journal prompts on there. The journal prompts include some questions. How are you already enough? I forget the other ones right now, but they're good. Go in there, start answering these questions, journaling on them, working on this part of taking care of yourself, loving on yourself, no matter what your accomplishments may be. And for those of us who are feelers like myself in this group, who enjoy a little meditative exercise or activity. So part of my work in this for me was really reparenting myself and letting go of my own abandonment stories. And so I'm going to close this class out today with just a small little taste of a guided meditation. I'll keep it to about 5 minutes long. And I can totally expand on this. And this kind of is oftentimes really helpful for a lot of my clients if we're really working on kind of reparenting yourself. So this is an exercise that I still do to this day to discover the depths of what my potential is and where I see myself going. But basically, it's kind of a meditation that helps us find that little amazing child that has never left us, that came into this world completely worthy, and to access them and to spend time with them and to really gain that energy again, and to see how, if that child had all of their needs met, what would they want from us? right? And this will be great into going into tomorrow. Are we creating quality goals? Are we creating goals that actually are what are true for us, what resonate with us? Or are these the goals that are what society or what our parents or what, we think are going to drive us to more happiness, more contentment, feeling more fulfilled? So, yeah, I'm going to close this class out with a little 5-minute guided meditation. You can always extend this. So if anyone would like to join me, I'm just going to ask you all to, thanks for all the hearts, guys. Love y'all. Yeah, so just place, I always like to place one hand on my heart, one hand on your belly, and just take a nice couple deep breaths in and release the stresses of the day. Breathe in light, love, and release. And I want you to see yourself as you are now. And I'm going to count back from 10 to 1. And as I count, I want you to revisit different stages of your life. 10 at the age that you are now. And when we get to 1, you're going to be a brand new baby coming into this world. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And as you see yourself as a small little child, I want adult you to hold yourself and just look into your own eyes. And is there a message you want to tell this child? What feelings does this child incite within you? Knowing everything that you know, what do you want to tell this baby yourself when you were just born? Now, from the opposite perspective, what does this child need from you? How can you hold space, hold room for this child's needs? Will you show up for this child? Will you take care of it? Will you tend to it and give it all of those things that it might have not received as it was growing up? What is it right now in this moment that this little child knows it deserves, knows it's worthy of, that they aren't receiving? And how can you provide that, give that to this little baby? Now, we're going to come back to today, to your age now. We're going to bring this baby along with us. Only this time, instead of seeing life as it happened, I want to invite you to take this child on its idealistic life. How should have the baby been taken care of? How could have the baby been taken care of? What would you have done differently? And I want you to envision some of those moments. And if you're doing this for a longer period, really relish in them, stay with them. What would you have done differently, knowing what you know today? We're going to go from 1 to 10 and come back to this now moment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And as we come back into this moment here, it was just a taste of how this process, this meditation works. But what I want to suggest to you all is really utilizing that as another tool in your toolbox, spending some time with yourself, with your inner child, really holding space for your inner child. And when you replay some of the ways that you wanted to be raised, some of the gaps, some of the things that you're missing, when you tell your little baby, hey, you are so worthy, you're so cute, you're so beautiful. I honor your dreams, I honor your aspirations. When you hold space for yourself in that way, and this is probably a little beyond the scope of this class, but for those who understand, for those who get it, it changes the quantum dynamics. It changes the trajectory of your time and space and your historical disposition. Like this is how you can go in and literally rewire your DNA, rewire your being. This is how you can heal, how you can become a whole new person. Really can rewire yourself, reparent yourself, and reassociate new memories through meditative processes like this for old ones that aren't serving you to discover ones that are. So I'll leave today's class on that. If anything inspired anything in you, inspired any thoughts, inspired any whatever, it's all welcome. Drop it in the group on Facebook. And I will see you tomorrow with creating quality goals. Okay. I love y'all. Have a beautiful day.